Hi, folks. I'm sitting here with Trevor Loudon, a subject matter expert of communism and its infiltration into our political system as well as our culture. And so the question I have to beg to ask, Trevor, is there a quick or a good, effective solution in eradicating communism in America?
Well, I think, we are funding the revolution. Most communist activity or socialist activity in this country feeds in some way off the federal government.
Yes.
Federal government programs, federal government money, federal government institutions. So really the quickest way to reduce the influence of communism in this country is to get rid of those institutions who are feeding it. And as I say, most of these groups are feeding off the federal purse in some way or another.
Right.
So it's like, you've got a trash pile in your backyard and it gets full of rats. Well, you can go out and poison them, but then the next year the rats will be back. You've got to get rid of the trash pile, then you get rid of the rats.
As you know, our Constitution's enumerated, and as well within the Constitution, you also know that the federal government does not have any authority in creating this funding or utilizing their position over the public purse to pay for all sorts of things that aren't within the Constitution. So would you agree with me that getting the federal government to comply to the Constitution is really the solution of eradicating communism?
Yeah. In the long term, yes it is, because we can hold hearings, we can investigate communists, we can put them in jail, we can do these things, but while we're still giving them huge amounts of money and institutions that they can use, while we're still doing that, the problem's always going to recur.
Right.
So in the long term, the only way to really eradicate socialist, communist influence in this country is to restrain the government back in the bounds of the Constitution, so these people have got nothing to feed on.
So let me publicly thank you for writing that forward for my first executive summary. I really appreciate that. And as a person that understands Republic Review, what are your views on Republic Review, or do you believe that would be the mechanism enforcing this compliance?
I think it is. I think it's the most effective method that I have seen presented to me, because I understand that most of the problems in this country, social, political, economic, all stem from a massive overreach by the federal government. And state governments to a degree, but mainly the federal government is way out of control and is doing a whole bunch of things that are not constitutional and spending huge amounts of money that it shouldn't be spending. And so the bad guys are feeding off this, and politicians of all stripes are feeding off this. So this breeds corruption, it breeds socialism, it breeds indoctrination. So Republic Review is the best thing I have seen for reining in the federal government and restoring the rights to the states. If the states can be weaned off and stop using federal government funds, they will then return to the control of the people, as they should be. So I'm very much in favour of the concept of federal review. Yeah.
I think it goes without saying that the federal government also, and the United States taxpayer, is subsidizing communism and socialism around the world as well. And we need to stop doing that. But getting the states to step up is the real question. And so what do you believe would be the real drive? I believe it is just about showing them the threat of communism in their backyard, showing them the threat of these communist agendas, policies, and so forth. Do you think that will help in getting them to wake up and step forward?
I think it will show the legislators in each state that the Republic Review would be the best way that they can restore their own sovereignty. And I think most state legislators would like to be sovereign in their own state. They would like to run Nebraska for Nebraska, or Washington for Washington, or Kansas for Kansas. But right now, because they're slaves to the federal government, they're so dependent on federal government welfare, and this is bringing all sorts of socialistic programs into their state. If they understood that they could get rid of the socialism and restore their own sovereignty in their own state and do the job they are paid to do, I think, and they could see that as a reality, I think a lot of legislators would get behind that.
I can't say anything more. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Look, it's a great pleasure, GR, and I really wish you all the best with the Republic Review process, because I think it's something that's simple and straightforward and easily understood, but very, very effective. We just got to get the ball rolling in one or two states, and I think many, many more will follow.
I'm actually hoping that you'll be there with me in Casper, hopefully in August, so that we can actually do this rodeo for Republic Review. Whether we do this with Red Pill University or whomever, I'm trying to get the funding, and I'm not sure if your schedule's there, but I would feel it an honor to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in moving this forward.
Look, I certainly hope we can do that, GR. I'm leaving August open, and it's good to get out of Florida in August anyway. It's pretty hot down there. So look, I'm happy to stand beside you in this, because look, I understand the problem of federal government overreach. I can understand the problem of the socialism that it brings and the corruption that it brings, and very few people have come up with a real mechanism that the states can use to actually roll this back. So I think it's full credit to you and your team for doing this, and I'm happy to stand beside you in presenting this to the public.
Awesome. I'm just humbled, and thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I'm always willing to stand with a patriot, GR, so I'm happy to be involved.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thanks, John.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That's a matter of opinion. But you know...